Welcome back, everybody. Today we're taking a deep dive into something pretty bizarre, the Mandela effect. You know that feeling when you're like totally sure something was a certain way, and then bam, it turns out you and like a ton of other people have it completely wrong.
It is pretty freaky.
So we've got a whole bunch of YouTube videos all about it. We're going to try to unpack some of the most mind-boggling examples.
What I find so interesting about the Mandela effect is it kind of makes you question, like, how much can we trust our own memories? Like, how much of what we think is true is actually just, like, influenced by other people, our culture, or even our brains just trying to make sense of things.
Okay, so for this deep dive, we're going to stick to like the examples themselves, and we'll let you, the listener, decide what you think about like why they happen. Ready to have your mind blown.
Oh, absolutely. Let's kick things off with the example that gave the whole phenomenon its name, the death of Nelson Mandela.
Okay, yeah, this is a big one. A lot of people, and I mean a lot, clearly remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison back in the 80s. Like, they can recall news reports, funeral details, the whole shebang.
But in reality, Mandela was actually released from prison in 1990, became the president of South Africa, and lived until 2013.
Wild, right? Like, it just shows how even, like, really strong memories can be, well, not so accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
So how is that even possible? I mean, it feels like such a major event. How could so many people have it wrong?
Right. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It really highlights just how much our memories can be messed with by stuff around us. Maybe it was all the talk about the political climate back then, or like people getting incomplete information and then their brains just filling in the rest on their own.
I don't know. It's kind of unsettling, to be honest. Like, if we can be wrong about something that big, what else are we misremembering?
That's just the tip of the iceberg, though. Let's switch gears to a lighter example from pop culture. The Berenstain Bears.
Oh, man, this one gets people riled up. I remember those books from when I was a kid. Wait, was it Berenstain or Berenstain?
It's Berenstain, always has been. But you're not the only one who thinks it was spelled with an E. It's a classic Mandela effect situation. People are positive that the spelling changed. Some even dig up old stuff they own to try and prove it.
I could see how that one would mess with people, you know? Those books were such a big part of growing up for so many people. And to have something as basic as the spelling be different, it's just weird.
It really shows you the emotional connection people have with certain memories. When something super familiar suddenly changes, it can be, like, really unsettling.
All right, ready for a real head scratcher? How about the movie Shazam, starring Sinbad as a genie?
Now, this one's really interesting because we're talking about a whole movie that never actually existed.
Wait, people actually remember this movie?
Yeah, and not just like vague impressions either. They can describe specific plot points, scenes, even Sinbad's genie costume, like in vivid detail.
But there's zero record of it.
Nope, nothing. Not on IMDb, nowhere. The wildest part. Sinbad himself has talked about this whole thing, which just adds to the mystery.
Okay, starting to feel a little creeped out now. Maybe let's take a step back from the reality-bending stuff and talk about something a bit more familiar. How about Curious George? Just picture him for a sec. Does he have a tail?
You'd think so, right? He's a monkey. Monkeys have tails. Makes sense.
Exactly. But get this. In every official drawing and cartoon, Curious George is completely tailless.
It's one of those things that once you notice it, you can't unnotice it. And then you wonder, like, how much does a little detail like that change how we see a character?
It's like that moment you find out Santa isn't real, but for monkeys and tails.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's stay with the animal theme for a minute and talk about Looney Tunes versus Looney Tunes. Which one just sounds right to you?
Looney Tunes feels right, doesn't it? Because, it's a cartoon. Tunes make sense.
Yeah.
But that's the Mandela effect messing with you again. It's always been Looney Tunes with one O.
So our brains just naturally gravitate towards the spelling that makes more sense, even if it's wrong.
Looks like it. Our minds like to create order and logic, even if it means filling in the blanks with our own assumptions. Speaking of assumptions, let's try a little visualization exercise. Picture the Monopoly man in your head. Got him. Now, is he wearing a monocle?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems like a very Monopoly Man thing to wear.
You'd be surprised how many people think the same thing. But the truth is, the Monopoly man, or Rich Uncle Pennybags, as they officially call him, has never sported a monocle. Not in any of the official artwork, not on the game board, nowhere.
So why do we all remember him with a monocle?
Our brains love to make connections. Maybe we're borrowing that little detail from other famous characters, like Mr. Peanut with his monocle and top hat.
Huh. Like our brains are creating a mashup based on similar visuals. All right, last one for this section, and I think this is like The most famous example of how the Mandela effect can warp our memories of pop culture. Complete this iconic line. Lucra.
I am your father.
See, it's ingrained in our minds, right? It's one of the
Yeah.
most famous movie lines of all time. Except,
Except it's not quite right. The actual line from The Empire Strikes Back is, "No, I am your father."
what does this tell us about the Mandela effect?
I think it shows the crazy power of collective memory. Through constant repetition and how much it's been talked about, even the most famous phrases can get, like, altered in our minds. It's almost like the misquote itself has become more real than the original line.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. We've covered some seriously weird stuff today, and we're just getting started. We've got a ton more Mandela effects to unpack, so stick around. Okay, so we've just scratched the surface of this Mandela effect thing, ready to go deeper into this world of messed up memories about brands and logos.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, there are so many examples in this category. It's like no brand is safe.
Okay, so before we get into specifics, can you give us a quick rundown of some of the most common Mandela effects, related to brands?
Sure. We've got Fruit Loops, which a lot of people remember as Fruit Loops. Then there's the whole Kit Kat thing with some people insisting there was a hyphen between Kit and Kat. And of course, there's Pikachu with his black-tipped tail.
Wait, Pikachu didn't have a black tip on his tail. That one's really messing with me.
Nope, never did. And those are just a few. There's Jiffy peanut butter. Some remember it as Jif. There's Oscar Mayer with an extra A in Mayer for some. And even Febreze, which some recall as Febreze.
Wow, okay, that's a lot to take in. It really shows you how widespread these shared false memories are. They're everywhere.
Yeah, they really are. But for this deep dive, we're going to focus on one particularly weird example, the Fruit of the Loom logo. Picture it in your mind. What do you see?
I see a cornucopia with all sorts of fruit spilling out. That classic symbol of abundance.
That's what a lot of people remember, but here's the catch. There is no cornucopia. Never has been. The logo just has a bunch of fruit, all clustered together.
Hold on, are you serious? No cornucopia. But it makes so much sense. The name, the image, it all just fits.
It's bizarre, right? And it gets even weirder. Some people have found these old newspaper articles from back in the 90s that specifically describe the Fruit of the Loom logo with a cornucopia.
Wait, so there's written proof of a detail that never existed. This is getting seriously trippy.
I know. It's one of those things that really makes people who believe in alternate realities or shifting timelines go, see, I told you.
Okay, my brain is officially fried. Let's move on to our last category before I have a full-on existential crisis. What about misremembered quotes?
Oh, this is a fascinating one. It shows how even the most famous lines, those quotes that are just etched in our memory, can be totally wrong.
So we're talking about those phrases everyone knows, but nobody seems to get exactly right.
Exactly. For example, how many times have you heard someone say, life is like a box of chocolates?
Oh, all the time. It's from Forrest Gump, right?
Right.
How life is full of surprises. You never know what you're going to get.
You've got the right movie and the right message, but the actual line is, life was like a box of chocolates, past tense.
Huh, so it's not about the present. It's like a reflection on the past.
Yeah.
That actually changes the meaning quite a bit.
It does, right. And that's not the only famous quote that gets messed up. Think about the evil queen in Snow White. Most people think she asks her mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall.
Right.
But the real line is, magic mirror on the wall. Again, it seems like a small change, but it shows how our brains kind of like to simplify things, sometimes sacrificing accuracy for the sake of remembering things easily.
So our brains are basically little, quote, editing machines.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
We tend to streamline information, especially if it's something we've seen or heard a bunch of times before.
Okay, let's talk about two of the most iconic misquotes in movie history. Beam me up, Scotty, and play it again, Sam.
It's funny, these phrases are so ingrained in pop culture that it's kind of shocking to find out that they never actually appeared in their respective movies,
Wait, are you telling me Captain Kirk never actually said, beam me up, Scotty?
Nope. They use similar phrases in the original Star Trek series, but never that exact wording.
Then how did it become such a catchphrase?
Probably a few things, I guess. The phrase itself is catchy, easy to remember, and plus it's been repeated a million times in TV shows, movies, you name it. Our brains love shortcuts, so it makes sense we'd boil down the different versions into that one super famous phrase.
It's like our collective consciousness created this misquote out of thin air. All right, let's move on to Play It Again, Sam, which, just oozes old Hollywood romance. But you're saying it never actually happened in Casablanca?
That's right. Ilsa never says those exact words. The closest she gets is, play it, Sam. Play as time goes by.
And later, Rick just says, you played it for her, you can play it for me. Not quite as romantic, is it?
Not really. So why does Play It Again, Sam stick around? Well, a lot of people think Woody Allen's movie from 1972, also called Play It Again, Sam, kind of solidified that misquote in our minds.
So, a movie title helped to solidify a misremembered line. That's wild.
It is, and it shows how much the things we watch and listen to can actually affect our memories, even
Yeah.
change them. It's almost like we've all rewritten history together.
Wow. Okay, so we have covered a ton of ground here. Pop culture mishaps, brain busters, messed up quotes. It's like our brains are messing with us.
It really makes you wonder how much we can trust our own memories, what we think we know.
So, of all the examples we've talked about, which one do you think is the most mind-boggling?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, they're all so weird in their own way, but I think for me, it's the Fruit of the Loom logo with that phantom cornucopia, that newspaper article talking about the logo, like the way so many people remember it. That's just strange.
Yeah, that one's really hard to explain. It makes you think maybe it's not just like our memories glitching out.
Right. It opens up some pretty crazy possibilities, like alternate timelines or shifting realities.
Mhm.
But even if we stick to simpler explanations, like the power of suggestion or how our brains just love to fill in gaps, I mean, this whole Mandela effect thing raises some big questions.
Yeah, like what does it tell us about how our brains work? Why do we remember some things so clearly, but forget others? And why are some memories so much more vivid?
Those are questions people have been trying to figure out for, like, forever. Scientists, philosophers, everybody. And this Mandela effect just adds another layer of weirdness to the whole thing.
It's almost like the universe is playing a joke on us.
Yeah.
You know, we think we understand things and then bam, something simple like a logo or a movie quote comes along and just shakes
Sure.
everything up.
I think that's part of what makes it so fascinating, though. It reminds us to be a little humble, to admit that maybe we don't have all the answers. Our view of the world is always changing.
It's a good reminder that we're all kind of works in progress, I guess. Even our memories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as you go about your day, pay attention to those times when your memory and reality don't quite match up, those little glitches. Those might just be your own personal Mandela effect moments.
And who knows, maybe they're a sign that there's more to this world than we realize. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Mandela effect. Hope you had fun exploring all this weirdness with us.
And if you want more mind-bending deep dives, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for a whole bunch of episodes exploring the strange, the bizarre, and the unexplained. Until next time.